Hi, I'm Michelle Tennant Nicholson, and I'm Chief Creative Officer of Wasabi Publicity. And welcome. We are doing real PR in real time. And what that means is we're going to pull back the curtain so you can actually see inside a PR campaign. What we've been doing is talking about our 21-day PR action guide. And it's been very beneficial for people trying to pivot inside the pandemic, inside struggles, just kind of career transitions in general, because they're looking at their voice and who they are in the world in general. And so we thought as a team, gosh, wouldn't it be great to let people see what's so mysterious about public relations? I often introduce myself as, hi, I'm Michelle. I can put you on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, like I did my client, landmarkworldwide.com in 2011, or like I did last week for my Japanese client, Ken Honda, the happy Zen millionaire, when I connected him with the Oprah Winfrey Network. But people always go, gosh, how do you do that? So that's the purpose of what we're talking about today and in this series. So with me is my co-host, Hannah. She's going to be putting things in the chat room as we move throughout our call. And if you're like, I have no clue where I've just landed or what she's talking about, one place you can go is my blog, storytellertothemedia.com. And I blog there and kind of like set the tone for what we're doing, what's current. So be sure to check out that blog at the wasabipublicity.com website. So if you're lost, don't worry, all will be revealed. The only thing you need to do right now is get your workbook out. So Hannah's going to put that into the chat room. If you don't have it, you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it at your registration information that you've gotten with this series. So if you don't have that, you can also email Hannah at wasabipublicity.com and she will get you the materials that you need. Also, if you're just like, I'm completely lost, even after this call, she's your buddy. She's your automatic buddy, okay? So Hannah at wasabipublicity.com. If you need anything with regard to public relations, please contact her. And also, if you're just needing some support, maybe some media lists, or you love what we're about to do with the online press kit and you want one too, she will set you up with that. But really, this ride is for you. And we're really excited that we have a lot of authors. Let me begin by introducing the person who really brought this to us. And she's a partner. We love her. I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself, because I know that I'm not going to do you justice, Stephanie. You're just a powerhouse on the planet. And I want you to introduce you, our friend and our partner, Stephanie Chandler.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. I'm so happy to be back with you. Happy Friday. I'm Stephanie Chandler. I run the Nonfiction Authors Association and also Authority Publishing. So I've had the honor of working with Clayton on his book project, as well as the wonderful Kristen Iris, who collaborated with Clayton in writing his manuscript. So we're all just thrilled to be working with you on this project. And I loved seeing all the great feedback last week from this call. Michelle, you did a great job and everybody's really excited. So it's super fun to be part of this.
Well, and I'm just really grateful, Stephanie, for the opportunity. Everybody's going to get to know Clayton pretty intimately in this call. So before we introduce him, I just want to acknowledge you for bringing him into my life. I feel very strongly as a change agent, having been in my past, all the way back from my undergraduate school days at DePaul University in Chicago. I actually managed Amnesty International and got a scholarship for my community service in that area. So when we're talking about societal good and making an impact, that's really close to my own passions and heart. So thank you for the opportunity to work with Clayton. And Clayton, we're going to get to you. Just hang out, okay?
Well, Michelle, I just want to echo that. I mean, I've never reached out to you guys or anyone and said, hey, would you do some pro bono PR? But I feel the same way. The reason that I work in nonfiction is because, to me, books make a difference in the world. And Clayton's book is so timely and so important. And he's the right person. I knew the minute I met him, he is just such a charming, wonderful, warm human being. And so this is important. And I'm so grateful that your team at Wasabi has embraced this as well, because I think together we all get to make a difference in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. Clayton, just hang out. I know you're dying to say some words, but just hang out. But before we introduce you, it's going to be yet another white woman. Okay. So Kristen Iris, please introduce yourself. And we're going to be talking about race. You better get comfortable about it right now. So Kristen, go ahead and introduce yourself and welcome as part of this team behind the scenes, and tell us about your role, please.
Sure. Well, thank you. I'm like beyond white. I'm translucent. So, no, I was delighted to be connected to Clayton through a client, and like anybody who talks to Clayton for the first time, he's just one of those people that you're like, oh, I really like this guy, and his story was great. So I'm just really honored to be part of it, and delighted that I can just play whatever role. So I'm here to just sit back and learn with everybody else and continue the collaboration kind of aspect to serve him in any way that I can on this leg of the journey of getting this story out into the world. So I appreciate Stephanie and Michelle, all that you guys are doing. And I'm really excited about just how the chemistry of the team and what we can all do. Hopefully it's one of those things where the sum of the parts, or the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes. And so just so you know, my business partner, Drew Gerber, and you may not know this story, Kristen, but when we started in 2002, the PR firm, I've been doing it for 31 years, but our PR firm started in 2002. And he's just like, write it up, just write it up. And I said, you don't understand. Okay. You don't just write it up. I need an editor. You know, when I was the editor of a publishing company in early childhood education in the 90s, I had a full team around me. It wasn't just me. So if you're a soloist and you're peeking in, you need support. You need a writer like Kristen. You need a publisher like Stephanie. You need a publicist like me. And of course, you need a great story. And that's where Clayton comes in. So Clayton, would you like to say hello? How are you to everybody?
Yeah. Hello. How are you guys?
Now that we put you on the hot seat, is there anything that you want to say before we get into your grill? Because I'm going to really ask you some really personal questions. And the first thing that I do with our clients is I give them an opportunity to ask me some questions because, you know, it's only fair that it's a very intimate process. And I'll tell you a funny story about that in just a second. But is there anything that you want to say about what's transpired thus far?
Yeah. First of all, just want to give honor to God. And if you guys only just knew my story, my journey, and I'm just a firm believer that God puts you in the right place at the right time, around the right people to do the right thing. And how, like Chris was saying, just all the parts come together. I kid you not, you guys just don't know the power of each piece of the puzzle. And it seemed like as the pieces come together, the puzzle got bigger and bigger. And the vision, I think, is getting bigger and bigger. I think the goal is getting bigger and bigger. And I just feel, if you open me up inside, you would see a big old smile on my heart. You just don't know what I feel right now. It's just incredible. Just really incredible.
Clayton, and you know, I want to be inclusive. We're talking about inclusivity today, but I too was raised in a very religious home. And one of the things that my father taught me, so I apologize if all of a sudden you're agnostic or atheist and this turns you off, just create it in a way that it washes over you. Okay. Take what you need and leave the rest. But my father taught me, he gave me a coin before he died, the prayer of Jabez. And if you're a Bible man, you know this Bible story. So in the prayer goes, you know, we please enlarge my territory so that I may serve others, but never do harm. And I've prayed that every day since the day he gave me that coin. I probably was 26. And that's how I believe my work is. And I know that everybody who's written a book, you believe that it's going to make a difference like that too. And that's what we're about today. So Clayton, any questions for me? Whether I'm married, I have kids, I have dogs, or anything like that?
No, I'm just ready to get started.
Okay. Okay. Now, some people will in the future will actually engage in a relationship with a publicist, and you have to trust your publicist. Okay, everybody. I'll tell you why. We had and we all need proofers. Okay, so like back to the story with Drew, I said we've got to have and we have a proofer on staff. I have several writers. I mean, I have a full team of people who surround me, brilliant people. Hannah's one of them who's on the phone right now, right? You are the total of the sum parts of what your project is, and that includes the talent that surrounds you. So one of the things that happened is that we were writing copy, and Drew typically does the marketing for our PR firm, and I'm managing. He's our chief executive officer. I'm the chief creative officer. So I'm dealing with the campaigns. He's dealing with the company, right? So one of his friends says, you've got like a spectacular typo on your website, unless you meant to put that there. He's like, what are you talking about? And it said, and literally, I'm letting it all hang out because we all make mistakes, okay? But literally what it said on our Wasabi Publicity website is the relationship with your publicist is the most scared. It was supposed to be sacred, and it said scared. It's one of those most big, like we still laugh about that typo because they're both so true.
So, yeah.
I have like clients, like, am I ready for TV? Do you think I should put them on TV? And one of our poor clients in the past year, I told her, I was like, oh, sure, we'll start you small. I'll get you on some kind of cable show in Atlanta. The minute we started pitching, we got her on CNN, and I had to call her, and I'm like, I'm sorry. I just got you on headline news. Is that okay with you? Because I told you it was going to be some little cable news show. And she goes, and I said, and to boot, it's tomorrow. And she goes, oh my God, I have to get my roots done. Oh my God. This was like literally the month before the pandemic hit, and we could still get our roots done. So you good, Clayton? You got to get your roots done? Because, it's going to be bam as soon as we get this press kit up.
Oh, I'm good. I just go to Walmart and get some hair color. I'm good. So.
Awesome.
But I do got a question.
Yes, perfect.
I do got a question. Why me?
Well, why you is because Stephanie asked. You had somebody in your corner champion you, a coach champion you, that then used her network to give you something. And when your story came to me, so I was asked, so I'm just going to talk about me personally. So Drew came to me, he said, Stephanie came to us with this project, and we say no to like 99.9% of pro bono offerings, right? We had a pro bono client, Grameen Foundation. They do microfinancing around the world. And we did that for a while. And then we also now have a pro bono client, take our daughters and sons to work day. So I typically say my dance card is full, right? He came to me and he said this, and I will tell you why I said yes, Clayton, and this is the truth. I was on I'm here in North Carolina, right outside of Asheville, and I was on a board of a local community co-op. And this was a couple of years ago, and we had some diversity training. I went to some diversity training because I missed the diversity that I experienced in Chicago here in the mountains, right? And so I went to these churches, and we go to the Black church one Sunday and the white church the next Sunday. And we got to do the woman who was leading it talked to us about diversity training and what the inequities were. So before Black Lives Matter really kind of came to a head, I had already been working in my own community, addressing diversity in this grocery store. Was there training for the employees to treat people of all backgrounds, races, belief systems in a respectful manner? Was our signage actually respectful and inclusive? Was it a safe place for all people coming into the doors, right? And it's something that I really was, I brought training to that particular environment, and it just kind of sat and was like, gosh, I, wish I could do more. And then it sat there. And then a year later, I get a phone call from my business partner about you. And it was a no-brainer. I said, yes, I've been through this because of this other woman who stood up in her own community and taught people like me. I finally understood what it was like to be in somebody else's shoes. And just a funny story aside, just for everybody, and we've got a very diverse audience. I was in that training, and we were at the Black church this one Sunday, and they were going over the housing inequities, right? So how it was actually written in our housing. My father was a vet, and then she was bringing up stories about other veterans and how African-American veterans could not purchase the same type of housing under the GI Bill that my father did. And I sat and cried like a baby. Okay. And this nice auntie sitting next to me, she was like, look at this white girl. This is hilarious. Right. So she puts her arm around me. She brings me, hugs me close, and says, it's okay, Michelle. We've known about this for a very long time, and it's okay that you're just now learning about this. And that auntie took care of me. You know what I mean, Clayton? And I went home and I was forever changed. And I told my husband, I said, did you know this was written into our laws in the United States? And she said, and my husband was like, I didn't know that. So that's what we're about here, right? We're just illuminating what we're talking about as far as equality for all of us. And all that PR is stories that are on a macro level that we're having. And not everybody's going to agree with what we're saying. Right. I'm noticing that as I'm speaking, I'm conscious to, is that the appropriate language? Is that not? And that's all that we're doing in today's call. It's not so much only, in fact, it's not my voice at all. When I get on right now, this is my voice. But when I'm on the phone, or the team's on the phone for you, it's going to be Clayton's voice. And that's all we're doing in today's call, is to get present to how would you language it? And so for everybody witnessing this, right, that's really important. So if you're another information officer, publicist, or someone who's managing a platform for another person, it's not your voice, it's their voice, and you're out of integrity if you're trying to push your voice inside their platform. It's just a really fundamental thing that we do at Wasabi. So you're going to teach me today, Clayton, what I'm supposed to say about you. Okay. Right. That's my background. I won't say I'm woke. I'll say that I'm curious. Right. I think that, anybody who says they're woke probably has a little more waking to do. Okay. Cause I don't know. We're probably I believe that we're all lifelong learners, right? Mm-hmm. That's at least the most satisfying life, that we just kind of look at, oh, this is now happening. That's interesting. If you believe in a higher power, God, why is this happening to me? And maybe I can make sense of this and turn this around. But maybe if you're not guided by, let's say that you're on the total opposite spectrum. It's not about altruism, but it's about money. Let's say that you believe your book is going to make you a lot of money. I would say, have a conversation with Kristen and Stephanie before you think that that's it. There's a lot of reasons to write a book. And I would probably encourage you to do a book and maybe some courses and some other things to make some money. But let's say that motivates you, right? You still need a clear voice. If you're all about money, you need to be clear about what you're selling. Otherwise, people can't find themselves inside what you're offering and find you as a solution, so that they're willing to turn over time and money. So right now, you've either put over time or money to participate in this series, or your book launch, or your campaign launch. So here's how we make sense of time. I'm now transitioning us into the agenda. Okay. So Clayton, sit back. I'm going to take you through what we normally do. We're going to condense a 2.5 hour process into this hour-long slot. Okay. So the other thing is there might be some additional work that we have to do, but I wanted to give people kind of a glimpse inside what this process looks like. Okay. So if you go to searchpresskits.com, you're going to see our technology. Hannah will put that in the chat for you. You're going to see our press kit technology, onlinepresskit247.com. Basically, this puts all of your pieces together for the press easily, right? So you're going to find a home page. You're going to find, since I talked about Ken, let me just pull up Ken's, just so that you can get the nuts and bolts. The kit, the workbook, this will lead you through those elements. But let me give you an example of something that's finished. Let me see if I can share my screen. So here you go. You've got your social assets. These are called owned assets. So anything that you own, a book, intellectual property, your social media, these are things you own, and you want to link them to your press kit. So here you can see it's written in a journalistic style. So headline first and then detail, detail, detail. It's very different than sales copy or a narrative format that you might use in a novel or something. Then you're going to have, we've got a one pager. We've got a link back to the regular press kit or the website. This is for the public. So the public is going to see this website, and this is going to be full of sales copy. So this is for a general consumer person to come in and say, hey, am I even interested in this book? Okay. So you can see Ken's got all his stuff here. He's got, his money course with Mind Valley. He's also got this type of newsletter where he's been listed and all his testimonials. This is a very different purpose than this. This is for press only. So we go from like here, it is very quick, right? They can read this quickly. Then they've got 3 bios. Then they've got a media coverage page, all of his, where he's been, and some maybe linking to a column that he has. Here he is. This is a column that they can read more about him. Then these are images. So these images are, you own these and you're giving them to the press to use. So when you put an image in a press kit, whether it's on our technology or on another technology that you're using, you want to make sure that this is high resolution and that you own the copyright. If you've had a professional take the photo, you want to make sure that professional is actually credited. I'm trying to find one because I know that he has. Yeah, here it is. This one, see how he credits the photographer here. Okay, so that then the media venue knows, the press venue knows, they also have to credit your photographer. It also just kind of tells his whole life. There he is, in his meditation garden. He has a story about his daughter in the book, so he includes his adult daughter. This is him basically out and about. This kind of goes, it tells the story of him in Japan, basically. But you're also going to have images that you can use with just Ken as a professional, as a businessman. So you got some wide shots, you got some closer shots, and so forth. Okay. Then these are interview questions. So they're already guiding the press what to ask you. And then here's a radio one pager. So what happens here is top tier press will write their own questions, but the local, regional podcasts, they like to just have a head start on questions so that they don't have to write them. It just helps them out. And then these are news and story ideas. These later become the headlines. And then how to contact you, when to contact you. This tells them that Ken has a press contact. Maybe you're doing your own PR and then you're the contact. Okay. So this is what we're creating today. And I've asked Clayton to fill out a client questionnaire. And so I'm just going to go over some of those areas quickly so that you can answer them for yourself. They're also in your workbook. Okay. Number of employees, his address, his date of birth, Who's the media contact? Like for scheduling. So if you're a soloist, it's all you, right? But if you're not and you have a team around you, then you need to have that ready so that the press knows it, right? So if you're if you're a therapist and you're not available, like Clayton, if you're with clients and you're not available, then that's off the table. Then don't do interviews during that time. You know what I'm saying? It is fine to have other interests in life and still be a go-to media resource. Right before this call, I was doing a Chinese interview confirmation. That's why I was like a little like right on time for this call, because I was dealing with, okay, we're going to do that interview. How are we going to do it? Is it going to be on Zoom? Is it going to be on WhatsApp? Is it going to be by the phone? Is it going to be an email interview? Is it going to be blah, 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 blah. What time zone is it going to be in? And who's doing it? Is somebody awake? Da, da, da. These are all details that are, and you got to do that quickly for the press or you lose the opportunity. So for you, Clayton, we're going to be managing that. For people who are soloists, then you have to do that. Or you're going to hire an intern or an administrative assistant, maybe a virtual assistant to help you with those details. But the quicker you can confirm that interview, we got the interview and then confirmed it within a 6-hour time frame, and then you're going to be on top news. If you can't manage those details in a short period of time, those cherry opportunities that everybody wants are going to go by the wayside. Okay. I have a lot of freedom in my life. The press kids help me. And there are times I'm like, I've got to choose to work right now or I'm going to miss this opportunity. Okay. I still go whitewater kayaking and mountain biking. I'm just a little tethered to my smartphone. And then sometimes I completely turn it off and say, I'm not answering the phone. I'm going to sleep. Okay. So you choose that. Anyway, get it all together so that when they are calling, boom, here's a link to all that you need. And then you're not having to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. So some of the other questions we have, why date of birth? Clayton, why do you think I need to know what day you're born? Just to wish you a happy birthday, which I will in July of next year, just so you know. Hannah, make sure that's in my calendar. Okay.
I think one, it gives you an understanding of obviously when I was born and what time, what era, and maybe how I was, kind of brought up, what I went through and kind of where my mindset is and maybe what I'm associated with and to things like that. So where you was born kind of connects you with things in that time you was born and how you was raised.
See, I love authors because you all are deep thinkers, right? The press, all they want to know is if you're over 30, under 50. Are you in the golden years? Are you applicable to AARP? Honestly, are you a looker? Are you aged? Do you have gray hair? Do you have muscles? Like these are the shallow things that they ask. That is just the nature of our world, right? So then we look at your age and we go, oh, okay, we can get him in, in this opportunity. There are the opportunities come also in ages. Okay, fit and fab and 40, or whatever, right? So that's the reason why, is that they actually categorize you. The press is always categorizing you. So, right, you are going to be you're now going to be categorized and filed under Black Lives Matter, police officer, a person willing to speak about their experience. So all we have to do is line up the materials that I'm doing right now for you inside that category, right? They want, it's going to go under their breaking news of the day as this starts to, continue to be a national and international conversation. And then they'll follow you as somebody who will speak about this. So we want to be inside their inboxes and connected to their social media, and we want them to be in relationship with you and use you as a source, just like we all, when you meet a new dentist or a doctor and you're like, I really like that person, I'm going to put them in my phone. It's the same way. They're doing the same thing. Ooh, I like Clayton. I might need him for a story. I'm going to bookmark this press kit. Okay. All right. So just because they might not read your book fully doesn't mean that they're not going to use you. A lot of times they'll use you, not even read the book, but they'll mention the book to thank you for doing your public service of sharing your story publicly. Okay. So that's why we do the birth. Also the hometown, I asked him because, you know, hometown boy does good. Now Clayton has, his story is about his hometown. So we've got to, there's some nuances in his particular story about that we've got to address, because actually how the media portrayed you is part of the story. Right?
Right.
I know it's a little painful too. So if you all are interested, by the way, Clayton has a new book that you can purchase. It's called, you know, want to go ahead and put links, Hannah. So if anybody wants to actually read his book, that they can actually read his book, right? Good Cop, Black Cop, Guilty Until Proven Innocent. Okay, whoever came up with the name, Stephanie, Kristen, and Clayton, you should be popping a bottle of champagne, because that is a strong name. Strong name. Okay, so I'm being told you can't purchase the book until January. So you will just have to suffer through a few more weeks, okay? So we've got alternate hour. Like, who's going to wake up in the middle of the night to get information, right? That should be the actual person who can be interviewed, or the information officer who can get to that person who can be interviewed. That's what that's about. We also have like your why. What's your why? What's your purpose? So Clayton wrote, we said, what's your purpose? My mission is to create change somewhere, change that relieves pain, gives hope, and empowers readers, regardless of their color, to do something, stand up, kneel down, or reach out in some way to people they may not have otherwise, and to view the world through a lens that acknowledges but does not judge based on the color of a person's skin. So right now, we're not going to do breakout sessions in this call, but I am going to have you do something. So if you're not you, Clayton, because, you know, I want you to stay focused on me, but everybody else, why don't you just go into news.google.com or any news service that you really use right now and see if you can find news stories about judgment based on the color of a person's skin. And then I want you to put it in the chat. Get them to do some work for us, Clayton. Okay.
I like it.
Yeah. If you see a current news story based on judging based on the color of a person's skin, and extra brownie points if it's today. Okay, we're going to talk about that in just a second. So then we've got other information. I've got other questions in here about, are there courses? Are there, you know, do we have to tie it into a larger offering, other training programs, courses, public speaking, a business, you know, what's actually putting food on the table type of questions. Okay. What's unique about the service? What distinguishes you from your competitors? Have you been in media before? What does, well, you all are answering this question. What problem in today's news or our culture does your product or service address or respond to? So he answered racial profiling, police brutality, the Black Lives Matter movement, defunding the police. And so so these are the search terms of the campaign. We're going to tie into those. And then topics. So I was like, that's what we're going to spend the majority of the rest of our time on, is the topics, what you want to actually talk about. What's happening in the future for you? Have you written any other books or published a movie or articles, things? Do you speak in another language? What are your academic credentials? Right? So you have a bachelor's in communications?
Yes, ma'am.
Sweet. Okay, we're going to use that. So one of the things about your degrees is that you can actually then, you know, like I have a master's degree in human development. Clayton, I didn't even think about using your BA in communications, but we could then start to brand you as a communication expert. Okay. Right. So you have your personal story, but then you can grow into a part of Clayton's book, because I've seen it. And you all haven't yet. You'll have to wait a little bit. At the back of his book are, really suggestions on what police forces can do to really train. And then we've got our high school, like the background, right? Who you were as a football star and athlete. So above all else, we want to know who you are as people. That's always surprising to clients. So in addition to everybody sharing in the chat room, because I know we're on this journey together, I'd actually like to know a little bit about you, because I read these chats after the call. I'd like to know a little something that would surprise me about you. So with Clayton, I'm going to let you answer that question. Okay. I'm going to start, and then the rest of you put it all in the chat. You may be surprised that I like punk music. You surprised by that, Clayton?
Not really.
He's like, I got your card. I used it in a podcast yesterday because the guy was telling his personal story about how he liked dark music, and he was actually talking about how a publicist had encouraged him to write more love songs and he didn't want to. And so I connected with him. The reason why we do hobbies, things of that nature, is because that's how we connect as human beings. The journalists will connect with you based on the topics that you're talking about, but they also connect with you on your hobbies. So for example, I might be looking at every time I pitch a journalist, I find out about them. And I had a guy recently around the wet markets and the pandemic, and I was trying to get his attention, and he put on his Twitter account that he liked French food. So I sent him a French recipe. Oh, you'd have thought that I'd sent him bonbons through the mail. He was so excited about that, So those are the kinds of things. We just want to relate to each other as people. So Clayton, one more thing that I don't know about you that would surprise me. I got all this athlete, you're playing board games, R&B, gospel, Motown, jazz, reggae. Oh, here it is. When I was about 8 years old, a flying saucer hovered over me in the backyard. What?
True story. Yeah.
Tell us that story, because you know what? We could actually clip it and then share it with Coast to Coast. It's a very big show that's syndicated, and they love flying saucer stories. So tell us about it. Awesome.
Well, I don't know. I'm dating myself. I don't know if you guys know the movie Lost in Space.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it looked exactly like that flying saucer. I was in my backyard. My dad was actually building a garage back there. So it was lumber and wood all in the backyard. I was staying on top of one of them. And I know you don't think I'm crazy. Okay. But it came at me, just hovered right over me. And it's like I wanted to scream and call my mom, like, mommy, something. I couldn't talk. I was like frozen. Nothing would come out my mouth. And it was like that for I would say it seemed like a long time, maybe about 10 to 30 seconds, something like that. And then it just took off, that time north of town. I mean, it took off now, from 0 to 100, bam. And then once it left, I was able to move and then go in the house. And to this day, I can go to my parents' yard, go to the exact spot where it happened at. And, I remember it like it was yesterday.
See, what's interesting is people go, whether we believe it or not is doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. What matters is that there is a vertical in press all about UFO experiences. Mm-hmm. And now you have an in with them. So they may not cover the book at all. They may not care about it, but they're going to care about your experience. And that's what connects you to them. Mm-hmm. They could have an article and then in the, when they do a descriptor, a title, or talk about you, then they say who you are, author of. Mm-hmm. Good cop, black cop, guilty. And then people go, then they read the book, right? So especially if you've got other types of books like novels and things of that nature, hanging our hat on the profile of the author is very important. Now, I also noticed that you sent here, and so then the other questions that we have in the questionnaire are things like your domains that you own, search terms that you're trying to connect. You could do a we could just go out there, hashtag good cop, black cop, and just keep beating that drum.
Mhm.
And then that is your hashtag for the rest of time. And you hashtag, every time you post something on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, when you're doing articles, you don't even have to really say your website or give a long drawn out answer. You can just now say hashtag good cop, black cop. And a lot of other people will start to use it inside their vernacular and they'll start posting about it. But the point is that you use it to the point where you come up first. Okay. So that's the other questions are like, your owned assets. And then also, what are your paid marketing campaigns? Paid marketing, things that you pay for to get your message out there, you control 100%. Owned media, again, everything that you own, you control. Earned media, this is what you don't control. So what we're basically doing is knocking on the door, virtual door of the journalists and say, wouldn't you like to interview or speak to Clayton about his story? Now, the other thing I will say is that you sent this to me in a PDF. I can't manipulate it. So when you're working with the press, it's great to use Word documents, and you'll see on our examples and in my blog this week, I gave examples of the press kits I'm currently using. You'll notice I use Word documents, and other publicists will say, but I use a PDF and I use a deck and I use this and that. PowerPoint is better than that. Well, I've been doing it for 31 years, and time again, I hear journalists thank me for sending over a Word document that they can cut and paste. Because at the end of the day, this is the whole reason why you're actually pay attention to this sentence. This is why you're doing the series. At the end of the day, you are only there to make the press's job easier. They want to get home to their family and eat dinner and get their assignment done. And they have to get a quote. So at the end of the day, you're there to, here's your glass of iced tea, dear journalist. What else can I do for you? I work for those journalists and those producers. Okay. So what do you want to tell them, Clayton?
In regards to?
Well, when we look at your topics that you talk about, so with your purpose, right, and your three main objectives are to reach as many people as possible, to open doors, allowing me to have respectful dialogue on matters of racial equality and injustices, to help facilitate change in regards to diversity training with law enforcement officers. Let's just take those three objectives and then marry it with this other question where I say your topics, right? You say, identifying our inner bias, Black is more than a color, personal fight against discrimination. I want to take what you're really wanting to do, and I'm going to put it on this page. What you're passionate about talking about, it becomes this page, right? One of the things we could do is look at the chapters of your book and actually say, the areas that you want to, you've got your story, but then you've really highlighted the areas you want to teach police departments about. So let's do a little exercise.
Okay.
And everybody else can do this too, but you just write yours, okay? And if you want to share it in the chat, that's fine. But you can also write it on your little notebook. But Clayton, you're going to do yours out loud, okay?
Okay.
Let's pretend you're on a plane. I know many people are on a plane right now, but let's pretend you're on a plane. And you're in first class. Good for you, Clayton. And Oprah Winfrey is sitting next to you, but she is asleep. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, I really would like for her to know about my book. Okay. And she's sleeping. She doesn't wake up till you actually land. Then she wakes up and you're about to get off the plane and she looks at you and she says, hi, I'm Oprah Winfrey. Who are you and what's your claim to fame? And you have 45 seconds to get her attention. What do you say?
Hi, Oprah. My name is Clayton Moore. You haven't met me yet, but I'm probably the best person you're about to interview in your career. I'm also the author of Good Cop, Black Cop, Guilty to Proven Innocent. But, that's another story. And, if you like, here's my card, here's my number. I'd be happy to touch base with you.
I like the confidence. I think that would perk up her ears. She likes a strong confidence. And the title, good. The title of your book is strong enough that you can lead with your title of your book. Now, for people who don't have titles of their books that tells all the story at once, maybe you should work on that. And maybe you just lead with your title, like you're a doctor, you're a therapist, and then what kind, we had a guy once who was talking, here's always a good one. You can take this one. He was in the area of neuroscience, and his book was about, relieving stress. So you can always, if you've got a well-being topic of some sort, you can always talk about stress relief, right? And remember, they're always talking about health, wealth, and love. So if you're not sure what to say, for sure, you're either a health expert, a wealth expert, or a love expert. So just choose one of those, okay? Clayton, you're also a communication expert because of your degree, okay? So we're going to highlight that. Now, let's say that Oprah calls that business card and you have her on the phone and she says, Clayton, what do you want me to interview you about? What if you had 1,000 police officer trainees, or trainers, those that are training, like heads of, like the people, whoever is in charge of the training departments to bring you in? What do you want to tell them? What do they need to know about? What's the topic?
I would say that inner biases and prejudices are real.
Okay, so you're going to be so inner bias, prejudice, okay, and then what else would be we're looking forward, right? You as a speaker or a trainer, and then working backward into the types of stories. So what we're doing, everyone, is we've got a macro story of the book that sits inside a macro story of a culture. And now we're kind of going into there's these concentric circles, and we're going in, and here's Clayton. There's the macro conversation of Black Lives Matter, which lives in a bigger conversation of humanity. And then we're drilling down to Clayton. Clayton has a story, and it's called Good Cop, Black Cop, Guilty Until Proven Innocent. And then he's going out of his story. What are the lessons? Think back to, Brothers Grimm fairy tales. And at the end, the teachers and the parents are always like, that was super violent. What was the lesson? What's the lesson, Clayton, of your story? And then, what is God telling you? Hey, you need to get this message out. When you decided to put pen to paper to write that, why? What are you teaching us?
Stay true to you.
Stay true to you. Good.
Yeah.
Next, what else?
What I tell people, don't always be selfish. Things that happen to you may not be about you, but God just used you as a vessel to get to somebody else. And what I strongly believe is that he chooses the best people to get that message across.
Good.
And you may have to go through what you go through at the time you're going through it, but it's still not about you. So
Good.
That's when I said,
Now, watch what I'm doing, everybody. Now, Clayton, what do you have to say about wealth and money? Two things, just two things. Money and your book and your platform and who Clayton is in the world. What do you have to teach us about money or wealth or abundance or careers?
Money and wealth, I think, money is money. I don't care how you try to slice and dice it. Money is money. But wealth and riches come in a variety of packages. And it's not always attached to a dollar sign or a green piece of paper. Having peace of mind and just understanding that you played a role in changing someone else's life by something you said to them, something you did for them, or just listening to them and supporting them, you know.
But you're trying to defund the police, Clayton. But you're trying to defund the police. My goodness.
Well, then my first question to that is, what do you call defunding? What is your definition of defunding?
Good. Keep going.
Because really, I think a lot of people think defunding means taking money away from the police. Okay.
What does it mean? Doesn't it mean that?
Well, to me, it means reappropriating funds, not to take away from the police, but to provide the police with more tools to do a better job to help you, citizens. Instead of taking that, instead of taking some money out of their fund and say, okay, we're going to just pay for your mistakes. This is mistake money. Well, take that mistake money and use it to be training money or investment money, as opposed to better equipment, better understanding and how to handle situations, how to identify situations, how to basically defuse things and de-escalate situations. By doing that, the chances of you going home are going to increase, and the safety of just yourself and others is going to increase.
And how does that impact my my health? Two things.
Health?
Yeah, how does that create like health for the community, health for the police, health for you and me? How does that impact that?
Well, obviously, if people feel like they have a relationship with the police officer, and they know that the police are there to help them, instead of fearing the police or looking down at the police, or that police is my enemy, and they're not really there for us. But it's funny because they can say they're not there for us, but they're the first people they call. It's kind of, sometimes ironic, but, again, having that peace of mind, knowing that the relationship is there, where the communication is going to be there to allow you to express yourself. And when you call them, that that they're going to come in there and help the situation, you're just going to feel a lot better about that, as opposed to, them as a last resort. If they come in, something may happen catastrophic, or,
How does that impact then the intimacy that I experience as a spouse, or the love that I have for children in a family, or how I communicate to nieces and nephews and my extended family? How does that impact my experience of intimacy as a human being in the community?
Before I answer, I'm gonna share a story with you.
Good.
Okay. And this story kind of blew me away. And it came from my wife. And actually, it's just a couple of years ago, when all the shootings were taking place, where all the what I call unnecessary killings of unarmed Black men, okay, by law enforcement. And I remember talking to her, and I said, things aren't going to change until police officers start getting killed. Right after that, you had the incident in Dallas where police officers are getting shot. And now people want to start talking about things, and like, they don't get it. They just don't get, people's frustration. And when people cry out for help and they say, hey, this is what's going on, stop, listen to us, let's change things. They're crying for help. Okay. It's just like someone who's reaching out, who, is going to trying to commit suicide. Before they do it, they may slit the wrist, they may cut it, or, have little things leading up to it. They're reaching out, they're asking for help. But this is what she said to me, and totally kind of blew me away. Here I am in law enforcement, a male, call myself a protector, my family, and supposed to be there for them. And I'm married to a Caucasian woman, a white girl. That's what we talked about. Okay. She's not as white as Kristen, but she's a little white. She's white. Okay. I mean, but it's
real. We're being, hey, it's real PR in real time and being real.
yeah, okay. But this is what she said to me. She goes, Clayton, when I'm driving and I get pulled over by the police, I'm fine. I'm not scared or worried. I only get scared when I get pulled over by the police and I'm with you. That hit me like a ton of bricks. And that really hurt. Here I am supposed to be in law enforcement, serve and protect. And this is my wife telling me she's scared to be in cars with me when I get pulled over by police. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That says a lot right there.
It says a lot about what we experience in not only the intimacy that you have with your wife, but then how those ripple effects actually affect all of us.
Right.
And so I just want, you might not be aware what we just did, Clayton, but you just wrote your press kit.
Oh, okay.
It's done. It's done. And so what we did, if you guys were witnessing it, is that we asked 2 for each, right? So we did 2 points on wealth, your career, could be money, could be abundance, if you're more of a mind, body, spirit person, whatever, right? With Clayton, it was more about the defunding the police and livelihood and all that stuff. Then we asked about health, right? How does this actually affect? So the body, the community, the well-being, like there's all kinds of that. Okay, then we did 2 on love. And what I mean by love, I mean all of it. Not everybody has to be a Dr. Ruth Westheimer, right? I just dated myself on that one. But it can be all kinds of topics on how humans experience intimacy, right? And that's also just safety, feeling safety and trust with each other and our networks. Now, that's it. We're done. We're at the top of the hour. My writers have what they need to actually write the press kit. Okay. And so take yourself, everybody who's witnessing this, and ask those questions, and you can do it. Now, there's a lot going on in the chat, and it is beautiful. And we will pour over what's in the chat with the writers. So then the writers just write up the copy, and then we just lay it out in the technology, then it's done. So what we're going to do now is we've got a holiday break. So I hope you all have a wonderful holiday. And then Clayton, then we're going to be sending you a draft to go over. And then as soon as the press kit is completed, then we start to pitch you.
Okay.
Okay. So in the meantime, just think about what you just said about your wife, because that might be a pivotal story. If you tell me now if we can't share that, because that's a powerful story. Okay. Thank you. Is there anything that we haven't covered that is really core to your message that we should know about as we're writing? That's your voice. Anything else? I mean, we've got your book. We've got everything in the book. We've got everything that you just said. Is there anything else that's been left unsaid? Just take a look.
I think between what I said and what's in the book, I think it's pretty much all there.
Good. Now,
can I just chime in real quick? Because I
sure, Stephanie,
use the focus on a couple of things from Clayton's book. He ends with what I think is a fascinating perspective on Black Lives Matter, and his perspective is Black Lives Matter too, TOO. And I haven't heard it articulated this way before, and I think it's brilliant and makes it more relatable. So I would love to see somehow that woven into his press stuff. And then the other thing that, Clayton, I think you started to talk about how we all have inherent biases, but your perspective on that, I think, is also really powerful. Could you talk about that for a moment?
I shared some stories with Stephanie. I think you're talking about the tattoo story. Is that the?
Yeah, that's one of them. And just you've got some good.
Well, don't. You can tease a little bit of the. I just want to make sure that people Anyway, go ahead, Clayton. Now
That's
we've
not
got to tell the tattoo story. You've now like teased everybody with it. So
okay.
come
Well,
on.
that's not in the book. That was
Okay.
just one of my experiences. Okay.
Okay. All right, let's hear it.
Um. Well, it has to do with like biker gangs and everything. I mean, if anybody knows anything like about police officers and bikers, they're like they clash. Okay. I mean, it's like cowboys and Indians, it's like, whatever, they light and day, they clash. And no one really knows the reason, but they just clash. So me personally, I had a bias toward when I see people like heavily tattooed, bikers, your piercings and everything, and the bikers and everything. And so I naturally, the red flags up, like trouble's about to happen or they're out to, cause a ruckus. Well, I had a situation where it was a hostage negotiation, not so much hostage, but a negotiation where the lady ended up ultimately killing herself. I was talking to her for well over 12 hours and established connection that she actually worked with my mother, my sisters. I coached her son in football. And so I had that relationship. And we had even some of the FBI people that were there. They finally got there maybe a couple hours after I had, established a rapport with her and sitting outside her bedroom because she had the door locked. And so after talking to her for hours and hours and everything, she ended up killing herself anyhow. Things happened and it didn't turn out that good. However, I then went to work at the Planet Fitness gym. That's where I currently have my little hobby. I work at a gym. So this dude came over and I could tell he was like, looking at me. And I was at the front desk. But, I guess that's the police in me just being observant. So I could tell he's watching. I was like, okay, what's going on here? So, I kind of, nonchalantly kept my eye on him too. He finally came to the desk and obviously he wanted to go tan. We have tanning available. So he came up to the desk and he had that look like he wanted to say something, So I kind of just gave him an opportunity to say it. I just looked at him and paused. And he asked me, is your name Clayton Moore? I go, I don't know, is it? And I go, why? He goes, because I heard about you. I know about you. I go, okay. You want to tell me what you know? And, he was like, I might tell you later. And I said, okay. So he went to go tan. And then when he came back and I said, so what is it you want to, that you know about me? Well, this is what he said. He said, he first of all told me who he was. He goes, the lady that I had been in negotiation with, he was related to them. And he knows everything I did to try to, change the situation. And I went like 12 hours without eating, drinking, going to the restroom, everything. I wouldn't move. I said, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not going nowhere, And he goes, in his biker gang, he said, we don't like some of the policemen, but they like you. They said that this is what they said about you. He goes, you're fair and you're honest. And they said, you're a good man. Mm. And when he told me that, it just, it just made me sink, just like, now here I am thinking that this guy's all about negativity and everything else. And he just gave me one of the biggest compliments I could ever receive. And ever since then, we were good friends. We would talk and everything come in and, we just like, we were buds, but it just made me think that, I don't know this guy for Adam, and he doesn't know me, but he knows of me. And then I found out again, a lot of the bikers and everything, they do a lot of fundraisers, do like bike runs and poker runs are called, to really help a lot of other people and everything. And, we all have our inner biases. And that was one of mine, that it was a prejudice that I saw what they looked like on the outside and what the perception was. And I painted a picture of them, when this guy and what he does is so far from the truth. It was just the opposite. And that just taught me a lesson about my own inner biases.
Yeah, so I see that, one of the first things that I asked you that we'll put in the news and story ideas is inner bias. And this is a beautiful story to retell on in the press interviews, because people can really see that at play. And so it's not only like, what do you want to talk about, but then what are you going to add to the interviews with stories and statistics, sound bites. And these are the things to start practicing now. So I want you to practice that story. And it took you about 5 minutes to tell that story. And I want you to practice on telling it in 45 seconds, because Oprah may want to hear that story one day. Okay.
Got it.
All right. And then we're going to, just for time's sake, so if anybody has any other burning messages, you can email Hannah at wasabipublicity.com. Stephanie, thank you for bringing that up. Kristen, any burning additions before we leave? No, you're good?
I will just say one thing about the Black Lives Matter too, is that some people haven't heard it, but there is controversy about that term. So I think it's important. I've especially heard that it's something that in the Black community, it can be seen as one more thing that minimizes the Black Lives Matter movement. So I think that it would be worth digging into how Clayton presents it, the nuances of that, and making sure that that's abundantly clear, so that that initial pushback or reaction might not be heard. And some of the other people here might be able to speak to that much better than I can, but that's just a controversy that I am aware of about that term, and part of why it's so important that Clayton kind of articulated the nuances of it.
So what Kristen is actually pointing to is we're now in a creative mode on what will actually work with our stories and then these macro stories. And even in our community right here in this call, there's differing opinions. Some of you are like, I don't agree with that, or I agree with that. And don't tell me that that's not the case, because you're human and that's just what we do as a human being. That's the same thing that happens with the press. And so Clayton, we're going to actually take the highest road in the messaging so that we unify more than further divide. Correct. Right? So that's what Kristen's really pointing to there is we've now got to have the writing staff look at and research what's actually being searched online. What's the narrative today? It shifts. It shifts with the breaking news. It shifts with the seasons. It shifts with the times. And so we want to be current. And that's the other reason why an online press kit is a fluid thing. It's fluctuating and flowing with the conversations that not only take place in the macro conversation of our United States or our state or our city or our community, but it's also actually shifting with your interviews. You may actually be in an interview and somebody say, oh my gosh, you're whatever they say, right? And then you go, oh, I really like the way you said that. And then you can actually change your whole platform to reflect that creativity that someone has gifted you with. All right, next time you've got several weeks over the holidays to dream about who you are and what you're going to say. And you're going to be moving into the next time we meet, we're going to be talking about the pitches. So exactly what Kristen's talking about, and moving into what are you going to lead with? We're going to have all these news and story ideas, starting to be developed, and we'll show you the press kit as it comes out. But then what are you going to do to take one of these and then make it into an actual placement? So I want you to take this next time of creativity and reflection, and just, much blessings to everybody. Until next time. Bye-bye.